This is Professional Launch with Ricot Aladin, positively connecting the less connected, bridging gaps, and building futures in the community. Professional Launch with Ricot Aladin.
Hello, professionals. My name is Ricot Aladin, and this is the Professional Launch Show where we talk to professionals who are accomplished in the community to help emerging leaders build powerful careers in communities. Today, I am joined by Kellie Carlson. She is VP of HR of a great company in town here. I'm excited about the conversation. We will dive into how young professionals can better partner with HR to unlock all the opportunities in their companies. Kellie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Please tell the Professional Launch audience a little bit about yourself.
As you mentioned, my name is Kellie Carlson. I am the Vice President of Human Resources and the Training and Development Teams at True North Steel here in Fargo.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, when I meet with professionals who are accomplished as you are, I'm always curious about the journey. How did they get to be
Accomplished? Thank you. Yes. That's very kind.
Yeah. So how did you get to be where you are today? Because that's the question, right? When you are young, you go to college, sometimes the road is not as clear as you can imagine. And so by talking to folks like you who have, had great careers along the way, give them a little window into your journey.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I would love to be able to say, well, I went to 4 years of college and then I started in this great career and moved up. And that has not been my journey, actually. So really, it was a little bit non-traditional. I went to 1 year of college right out of high school and was focused on accounting, finance, and most people that work with me now would laugh at that because a lot of people, the joke is that when you go into HR, it's because you're not a numbers person. Yeah. Nevertheless, I went to school for a year and decided I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went out in the working world, worked for a while in accounting, customer service roles, kind of things like that, and really figured out that I really wanted to help people. And so I found a good mentor in a company that I worked at, and she happened to be the HR director. And really that was what was helpful to me to really realize that was my passion. So I ended up going back for a 2-year degree and then landed a great HR job and then finished my 4-year degree and then ended up with my master's degree also as an organizational development. So it's been a journey. Yeah. And the message is that not every journey looks the same. And as long as it keeps moving you forward, that's the best place to be. So.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. You said out of everything that you said, the one that stick out the most is you find a good mentor. And in the conversation, we're going to talk about the mentorship, because this is what Professional Launch is about. We are creating a mentoring platform to help college students connect with experienced mentors in the community. And your story with mentorship is really an awesome one, simply because you said you found a good mentor that helped you take the steps that lead you to success.
Right.
And that's awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think, and we're going to talk a little bit about how individuals can work with HR, but that is one of the key things, is just finding someone. Some companies have formal mentorship programs, which is wonderful, and some don't. And so connect with individuals such as HR. The HR team is a great way to connect and figure out what are those connections that can be made, whether it's within the organization or outside. This community, we're very fortunate to have a lot of different programs that are available for mentorship. The chamber has some things, and each industry has some opportunities as well. So it's really finding out that niche, but we can talk a little bit more when we talk about the HR components. So.
Wonderful. So, I'm curious. So what excites you the most about your role right now?
What excites me the most? I think that we are really in a transition in this world, probably, but definitely in this country, when we're moving into AI and things like that, and where people can ask HR questions to an AI tool and get an answer. Yep. We are changing the way we have to think about how we approach communication and understanding of policies and things like that. And when information is so free flowing right now, it's making sure the right information gets out there. And that's just, HR has just really evolved in the time that I've been in the over 25 years now that I've been in HR. And just there's a lot of resources out there that weren't available in the past. So it's changing what HR really looks like moving forward and how that's going to work with the new.
So you mentioned HR quite a few times. So what is HR's ideal role in an employee career journey? So when you think about in a company, what is HR ideal role? What is it?
Okay, so when you're an HR person,
Yeah,
what is the ideal role? I think what is helpful in the HR field is to start really from a recruiter or a benefits. Start on the ground floor of human resources and then build to that.
Okay.
There's so many different components of human resources that are out there, whether it's training or whether it's benefits or comp or there's just a lot of different ways. And so I see a lot of individuals, especially in our community, going from recruiting, and that's really finding good people for companies, and then expanding their knowledge to other areas of HR. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes. So, but we're gonna dig deeper into it. I'm curious. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that young professionals or people that new talent have about HR?
Oh, that's a great question. I was hoping you would ask. I think that HR is evolving, but I do think that traditionally we can have a bad name in a company. We're the scary people that have to withhold, have to stand up with policies and procedures and things like that, and definitely in meetings sometimes that can be tough for employees. And I think you just have to change your mindset. Those people that are coming out into the workforce and see HR as really a resource in the company. We love to have career conversations with people. So depending on what size organization or what organization, reach out to those individuals. Again, we deal with some really tough stuff, but we like to have those conversations on mentorship or how somebody can see themselves grow and where there are opportunities both within the company and possibly without or outside of the company that they could grow in there. So I think the important part for students is really employees is really to show interest that they want to grow. And so if they aren't feeling like they're having that good conversation with a supervisor, reach out to an HR professional, and talk about really what they are looking for and how they might be able to grow within the company. Because, we always have access to all different positions, again, depending on the size of the company. But, and then, like I said, mentorship programs, volunteer projects, there might be things like that. Make yourself stand out from the rest and be willing to do something different or something you haven't done before.
Oh, I was just about to ask, what is the most effective way for a young employee can initiate that relationship with HR? I think you kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I can. I think obviously, again, depending on the company size, a lot of times the first interaction is at onboarding time when someone comes into the organization, and so if they don't have that touch point or they meet someone within HR, I encourage people to stop by. We really just say hello, introduce themselves, and start building that relationship. And then again, career conversations or any kind of question that we can help with. How did you get interested in HR, or how did you get interested in this, or what was your journey, like we're talking about today? Again, we as HR people really love to have those conversations and like to build relationships. So.
Wonderful. So, when should employees come to HR, and when they shouldn't? Can you think of a time that employees should not come to HR for this, or they should come to HR for this?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that there's never a time that you shouldn't, because we are a resource to employees. So I want to make sure but I would say that sometimes people can think that HR is the fixing department. And so if they're having a challenge with either a coworker or their supervisor, I think the first line is talk about your concerns with your supervisor, to see if you can come up with a game plan. What we do in HR is not take over and fix that problem, which I think is what some people believe. What we really do is help them, even role play about what that conversation could look like, so that they have the knowledge and can build their experience to how to have those tough conversations.
Wonderful. So, how can employees, and I think you probably touched on that a little bit, become a little bit more visible to HR without being seen as self-promotional or something like that? Without being seen like this. So how can employees become more visible to HR?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, as I mentioned before, I think volunteer opportunities are something that a lot of times comes through HR as we're advertising that, and we need people from all different areas of a business. So it just show that your willingness to do something outside of the box. I think that's a great one. Also, like I said, mentorship, learning and development.
Yep.
Where do they want to grow, or what is a class that they might be interested in? So I think that's a good way.
So we're gonna take a break. But last question before we go to break. So if an employee is having problem with their boss, and usually there is that misconception that the HR is there to defend the company, not specific, not really the employee. Do you suggest that they come directly to HR, or how do you suggest they go about that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one that I think is a great one to ask. So I think the question is around whether they should come to HR because they're having trouble with their boss. And so I think that's really a tough situation for somebody because obviously that's their supervisor.
Yeah.
Again, we coach on have that conversation with your supervisor if you can. But if you can't, yes, come to us. But know that we're not going to come in and save the day. That doesn't teach anyone anything. So it's really depending on the topic. So there's topics that certainly that we will jump in and take care of. But if it's an opportunity where they can grow that relationship, it's really about talking about this is how I would approach that, and then try that. And again, it teaches that employee some things, some skills. And if it doesn't work, then come back and we'll figure out something else. And there is a time sometimes where HR can set up a joint meeting as well, and we can be your partner. I do want to comment, I know we have to break on one other thing you said. HR does represent the company, but we also, our customers are the employees. So it's a very interesting role that we play. It's probably about 50-50.
Okay.
And sometimes that's hard for a new HR person to get their head around because ultimately we all work for the organization.
Yep.
But we also want to make sure that our employees are having the best opportunity and best time with our company. And so it's really about how do we make sure that everybody is treated fairly.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we will continue with the conversation. We'll be right back. We are back. Today, my guest is Kellie Carlson. She's a VP of HR. Man, did I get lucky today with this guest. She is touching on all the good points that the professional launch is about. And just while we were on break, Kellie, you were talking about some activities, some opportunities within companies that employees can look up just to find, that can benefit them. Come on, and talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thank you. So, of course, I thought about some things on our break that I didn't mention. So, one of the things that we do at True North Steel, and I know other fairly large organizations have employee resource groups, and that is put a group of individuals that have a like mindset. So, our first employee resource group is veterans. So, we have a fair amount of veterans that work for us at True North, and so they all get together once a month and they talk about different community activities they can do. And it really just gives employees a sense of belonging that they can be part of a group. And so, again, a lot of organizations have gone to that model. There's other groups such as, working mothers, younger professionals, people that are looking for growth opportunities, those kinds of groups. So it just depends on the employer. But again, that's a great way. I think the other thing is career pathing. And so a lot of companies, including ours, really are building out career paths for individuals. So if they come in and they're a welder and they have an interest in being a project manager for us at some point, we really are showing them the path of what that might look like. And so a lot of HR teams are working through that. Ours is pretty new at this point, but it's really about talking about where can I get the skill set, and it may not be college. Where can I take a class, or where can I learn something more, or even shadowing for that role to say, what is that role that you might be interested? We can make sure that that happens in the HR team as well, so that they have the opportunity to see what might be possible in our organization.
Man, you touch on about 3 questions that
All right, well, then we can just hang out. What else do you want to talk about?
So you touched about 3 questions I was about to ask you. But I'm gonna kind of go to the third one. So I was about to ask you if there are opportunities that you think that employees or young employees, people who are new to the company, sometimes overlook things that they should ask about. Like it can be benefits, it can be opportunities to grow, like career pathing, and so on and so forth. So I was just about to ask you that, but you kind of touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of companies I know talk about this at onboarding because
Okay.
we really are very aware that when an employee comes in, it might not be the position that they necessarily dream about, but it's a starting place.
Yep.
So onboarding is really that first connection that you have with human resources, and so that's where we talk about where to come or where to go if you have an interest in something else.
Okay.
So I think that's the first touch point. I also wanted to circle a little bit back to, you asked about how much should you be going to HR? I'm not talking about coming to once a week to talk about that, but definitely check in every 6 months or something because, there's a lot that happens in a day and a week in our world. So, make yourself visible, make sure that you're just, checking on the question I had before, if you didn't get an answer, or maybe if you have new ideas. So again, we want to hear from employees, but, again, within reason, but we're here to support you all or the employees. So.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, within the organization, sometimes those opportunities, do you suggest that I'm talking about especially the newer employees. So if somebody is with the company for, let's say, 6 months or so, they're still finding out how to do their job, the best way they can. But my question is, how can those new employees find out? I mean, should they find out about? Should they come to HR to find out about these opportunities, or should they talk directly to their boss to learn about those opportunities, especially related to growth or what have you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think both. I think so. I think that good supervisors, and definitely we coach our supervisors to have those career conversations about what it might be that they're looking for or how they need assistance in their current role. But I also think that they also have some ideas, express if you're interested, I came in with this role, I might be interested in something else. How would you recommend that I go about that? I think the other thing, most companies have a internal job board where they have job positions. I encourage you to throw your name in the hat for something, even you may not meet all the qualifications. What we do in our organization, and I know many organizations, we interview all internal applicants. So going through that process is a huge way to both build your skill set and make yourself, what's the word I'm looking for? Make career that you are interested in growing your career.
Show interest in
so showing
growing.
interest in that.
Yeah.
So again, don't be I would definitely, applying for a job, there's some work that goes in it. But again, if it's something that you're interested, it's a great way to find out about that role.
Don't stay invisible.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Just, get out there. And that's what I meant about even volunteer or, wellness things. We have team lunches. Just make sure that you're out and meeting other people and growing yourself.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So, now, what advice do you have for someone who might feel stuck or unrecognized in their current role?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that can happen at times, and again, I always want to make sure that we're giving supervisors and bosses their time. But if they're not feeling like they've gone to their boss and they're not getting a lot of good suggestions or recommendations where they feel like they're moving, again, come to someone in the human resources team, or even go to someone that might be in a higher level role. You would be surprised how approachable people are.
Yeah.
In our organization, for sure, we're family owned, but I think in a lot of organizations, leaders really want to have those conversations. We know how important it is to build people, and we would rather build someone that works in the company within than somebody that comes from the outside. So I think it's really...
Well, one thing I found out is that sometimes we are shy. We are so afraid of, he's the CEO, he's the VP.
Right.
I don't know, I'm a, entry-level employee. I don't want to talk to that person.
Right.
They can talk to my boss. And
Yeah, I understand.
But, and that's something I see even sometimes for college students. I tell them that all the time, regardless of how high up the person is within their company. As a student, if you reach out, you'll be surprised how willing they are, how much they are willing to sit down with you, have a coffee, or have you at their companies just to check out what they do. Why? Because you might be one of their employees in 6 months or a year. And so, sometimes I know it might seem a little intimidating to do that, but I encourage students to do just that. And to your point, they are willing to meet, they are willing to share about the company and so on and so forth. And so,
could I comment on that?
yes,
if
go ahead.
you're going back to my journey in this profession, that was really what happened. Is I was a customer service rep at Cargill in town, and really, wanted to learn more about human resources. So I set up a time to talk with the director, and that's how that built that mentorship and how I'm here today. So I really do think, and HR can really be that liaison. So if you're intimidated by going to someone that has a big title. Start with your HR person, your person that you're talking to about other things. They're going to be able to point you in the right direction, or at least have a conversation with you on how you can keep moving forward.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We're going to take one more question after that. We're going to go to break. So, how can employees advocate for themselves while still being a team player?
All right. Well, so how can employees advocate? I think that advocate for themselves as it relates to a role or getting a role. Is that? Can you
So
elaborate?
let's say there are opportunities that sometimes the way you go about finding opportunities might look or seem selfish. And so, do you have any advice on how they can do that? Whether it's trying to go about some personal goals. Let's say they want to grow, they want to become, maybe get in different position and so on and so forth. So how can they do that while they still seem to be looking out for the team?
Yeah, no. So I think that's a great question. I think the most important part is to make sure you're doing a great job at what you're doing, no matter what that is. If that's an entry level position or not necessarily the one that you want, your dream job for sure. Good performance speaks loudly. So I think as you can start reaching out to whether it's HR, your supervisor, or other things and other opportunities, make sure that you're doing what you need to do to get the job done and do it well. And then be open to taking on other tasks. Just say, you know what, I'm really interested in this. Could I help with this? Most supervisors and leaders are not going to say no to help for sure. Or where can I get plugged in? I'm really interested in this topic. Could I be part of this committee? That's a good way to do that. But again, do your job well, because that's what matters, and just make sure that you're very vocal about what you're looking for as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So before we go to break, I have a quick message for you. I want to remind you that Professional Launch is a nonprofit organization, and therefore we heavily rely on friends, on guests, on partners to keep our operation going. Now, go to professionallaunch.org and see all the way you can support Professional Launch. And also, we are recruiting mentors for the fall semester. If you have 1 to 3 hours, you can to 2 hours a month, or 3 hours for the semester that you can volunteer to help young professionals find a career path or lead them to an opportunity, go on professionallaunch.org and click on that platform button to sign up as a mentor, and we will work with you all the way to help you do just that. We thank you so much for your support. Now, we're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. We'll be right back. We are back today. My guest is Kellie Carlson. She's a VP of HR. Man, am I enjoying this conversation. And here it is. She has the ideal mentoring relationship story that I can't wait to hear much more about. Kellie, welcome back.
Thank you.
So, Kellie, you were telling me about your mentor, how that leads to many, many opportunities. Please give me the full story. Don't leave anything out.
Okay. Well, I still talk to my mentor at this right now. I've had lunch with her. So, you know, I think it's, again, building that relationship in an area that you're interested in. And most of us that I've been asked to be a mentor throughout my career, and it's such a thrill to have that question asked. So don't be afraid to ask someone as well. But back to my story. So again, I worked in customer service and was interested in HR. I thought that looked like an interesting role. Set up a time to meet with her, and really she gave me some ideas. It's how I ended up going back for some schooling, and really just stuck with me through the journey. And there were times where it was like, oh, you know, I'm not sure about this role, and so I run that by her. And it's really been a lifelong friendship at this point, and the most ideal situation for me. So I always encourage you to find somebody. If it's not an official mentor program within your organization, there's lots of different ways to do that. Yes. We can talk about that.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm glad you say that, because sometimes people can be in a mentoring relationships and not realizing that this is a mentoring relationship. I have Aaron Hill. He came on the show a while back, and he was describing the relationship with another professional. And you know, right there, I said, this is a mentoring relationship. And so to the point that what we are doing with Professional Lunch right now is see if we can create, at least facilitate that for college students to learn from others and explore those opportunities. And so you said something, don't be afraid to ask. And that's something that we repeat on the show over and over again. A lot of times we don't ask because we know we think that somebody might say no and stuff like that, and that's what can happen. They can say no, right? And the ideal response would be yes, or they can say, oh, I know someone who might be interested in doing just that. So what triggered you to ask? Was it because the person was accessible, or how was that?
Interesting. You know, I think that it was pretty, and a lot of us start in customer service roles where you're like, well, I'm not so sure this is what I want to do forever. And I really just watched her in different things, you know, whether it was benefits open enrollment or some kind of event where HR was involved, and really just started building that relationship. And I thought, you know, this is a good person I can learn from. And again, when you talk about no, you know, no is an answer you may get. And like you said, it might not be a permanent no. It might be, right now, I just don't have the bandwidth to do that. Yeah. But like you said, they often know a lot of individuals that can say, you know, but I can recommend this. Let me give them a call and see if they might be interested for you. Again, asking that first question kind of gets the ball rolling for a lot of people. And again, most of us are very honored to be asked that, you know, to be asked to be a mentor is something that has been really cool in my career. And I think for others, we talk a lot about that. You know, to be someone's role model and really teach them the ropes on how to move forward is very rewarding.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what's the best advice you have learned from your mentor so far?
Keep pushing forward.
Keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I think that, you know, when you have a bump in the road, and believe me, I wish I could tell you won't, but everybody does. Yeah. Whether that's a bump of, you know, getting laid off from a position, or you have a supervisor it might not have worked out, or something like that. That happens to everyone. And just keep pushing forward. You know, don't get defeated. Figure out a way to change your approach and really just keep moving forward.
Ooh, wonderful, wonderful. This is just you know, I like keep pushing forward. I'm gonna steal that one for
you
myself.
Can. Yes, you can.
She said you can. Okay, so what does HR, how does HR support culture building across departments and levels?
Yeah, you know, culture is an interesting word. I'm actually going to be talking about that in a couple of weeks on a panel with some very, very wonderful people in HR as well. You know, culture is really what it feels like when you walk into the organization. And so from a human resource perspective, we can't control culture. We can set the direction along with leaders in an organization. And it's really about, at least for us in our organization, it's really about, we're family owned. We care about individuals. We offer a training program that really is creating the best version of yourselves. Yeah. And so it's really like out of the box trainings that maybe you wouldn't, you know, I can send you to a customer service training, but let me send you to this where you can grow as a person. That's really huge. And that's what we've done in our organization. But again, culture is really formed by all of those employees that are there. You can push it one way or another, but it's really up to those individuals to grasp onto that and really roll with that.
Yep.
We have like I said, a program that we work on with leaders and employees. Again, titled Creating a Better Version of Yourself, but it really works on really like what are those skill sets that people have? What are those areas that they need some help? I know you and I had a conversation when we were walking in the room about, communication and how important that skill set is. And really, what we're seeing is it seems like the people that are coming, the generation now that's coming into the workforce, they've had their devices in their hand and not a lot of, real-time conversations. So it's really like, do you need to get brushed up on that skill set?
Yeah.
So what it is that you're asking for too is really important.
They call me old-fashioned because I want to have coffee instead of.
I know, or a phone conversation even. Yep.
They call me old-fashioned because I'd rather meet with the person, have coffee and or lunch and then have a normal conversation. But so do you think that bigger companies have a easier time or easier way of nurturing culture than smaller companies, or do you think smaller companies has a easier time nurturing culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have to think on that. I think the easy answer is bigger companies. It's tougher just because of the sheer size of how many employees you have. For us, we have locations all over the country, and so the culture is a little different at each site. But we have one overarching culture, being family owned. I think for some smaller companies, you're just really normally in one location and you can really, set the tone.
Yeah.
And I can think of a lot of employers in town that really have a wonderful culture because they have agreed on what's important, their values and things like that. And I think, for me, when I think about it, I'm like, that has to be so easy compared to, our challenges with being as large as we are. I think culture, again, is just something that you have to constantly work on as well. Again, we work really hard on being positive. That's one of our key game changer attributes. So it's really about being positive and personal and responsible. And that's just something that some people don't always learn, but they learn when they're working with us.
Wonderful, wonderful. So before we go take another break here, I want to remind everybody that Professional Launch is a nonprofit organization, and therefore we rely on friends, on guests, on partners to keep our operation going. And those of you who have supported us in the past, you know how grateful we are. We are so grateful for your support because without you, we would not be able to be here 5 years. Doing this for 5 years, whether you support the show, whether you support our operation, whether you support us, just by following our social media pages, your support means the world to us. So we're going to take another break here. When we come back, we will talk about advice for young professionals and how they can improve their relationships with HR so that they can unlock opportunities that their company offers. We'll be right back. Oh my goodness, we are back. Today my guest is Kellie Carlson. She is a VP of HR, and we are talking about how young professionals can really better partner with HR to find opportunities within their companies. And so just while we're on break here, Kellie, you can kind of touch on that a little bit. We are talking about advice for young professionals, especially when they are so excited to get a job and they really don't take time to ask about opportunities within the company, any benefits, incentives that they can get, because let's say they finish college for 6 months, they are looking. When they find a job, they are so hungry for the job, they don't ask about these opportunities. So what do you suggest they can do to really take all the benefits, ask about all the advantages that the company have?
Yeah, that's a great question. We call when someone new comes in, we're so excited. There's a lot of energy and really as part of onboarding, you're really drinking from a fire hose is what we describe it as. You're taking in so much information and really trying to learn not only about the company, but also about your new role. And again, that excitement, there's just a lot of information. And so what we do at our organization is we check in with employees after they've been with us 30 days. And, what questions do you have that you maybe didn't ask? A lot of organizations do that, or they also have, we have a 45 and 90-day process where we're checking on the role. And that is also a time or an opportunity for a company to say, is there questions that you have that you maybe heard about, but you don't remember, or that you've heard about from a coworker or something like that. If they don't have that opportunity because they're not reached out to, that's when you reach out to someone in the HR team. Yeah. And, if you probably at that point have been talking to someone in benefits, because benefits come into play in those first few days. That benefits person is an HR team person. So again, they can help you with that. They might not be able to help you with a career conversation, but they can connect you with somebody within the team that can help with that.
So what's that one piece of advice that you wish every new professional would follow when they step into a company or as a new hire?
And honestly, it starts really with when they're looking for a job. The advice that I have is learn as much as you can about the company before you come in. Now, even we interview a ton of individuals, obviously, and I tend to interview leadership type roles. And you would not believe the people that come and interview with us even, and they don't know anything about our business. And so that's one of the first questions that I ask is really about, what do you know about us? I mean, every company has a website. Yep. Learn about, what they're working on, what something that maybe growth opportunity or growth that they've seen in the business, learn something. And so I wish that people knew when they come in, if you look like you did some homework and you really understand the company, you stand out right away. Whether it's an interview or when you come in as a new employee, it really shows that you're willing to do the work to learn about the company. And then, there's always a benefit page a lot of times on the website, and so they can learn really, about their questions on that. But then that gives them an in to talk about, I have a question on this. So I think that's the best advice, is really learn about the company that you're coming in, whether you're interviewing or coming in as your first week in orientation. It really shows and it makes you stand out.
Wonderful. So you said something that we talked a lot about in our interview prep and career prep, interview prep for young professionals, what we call the BDA of interview: before, during, and after. Before you go to that interview, don't you dare go to the interview without learning every possible thing you can about the company.
That's awesome.
They have websites and they have social media pages. And so if there is news about the company, whether they just want a brand new contract, and within that contract there are projects that where your skill can come in handy. You need to know that.
Right.
You need to know that, because that will give you a leg up. And we talk about that. We can help you with your resume, but once you're in there, it's up to you to get have those conversations and give yourself an edge.
And most of the time, it's easy.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, it's easy. Like you said, information is there's so much information out there, that is available, especially with website and pages and stuff like that. So you were right about that. So last question of the conversation. We have about 2 minutes for that. Is there anything that you think that young professionals should know while they are looking for work about HR that you don't hear, you don't see it happen?
Okay, yeah. So I think I understand. I guess where my mind went right away was, I think one of the things that I hear from job seekers a lot is that they are applying for a lot of jobs and they're not getting any response. And, follow up. And I'm sure you teach your students that as well. Follow up, ask the good questions. We, especially in this market right now, we're getting a lot of applicants for positions again. 2 years ago, it wasn't the same. We were begging for applicants. But right now, just make sure that, you stand out with what you're presenting. You're helping with resumes, which is fantastic. But make sure that you're including your skill set and what you're looking for, and then follow up. And don't give up. And always be looking at a lot. There's just so many different opportunities within this community or whatever community you're in. Do some homework. Ask people, ask your friends and family, like, what company stands out? Do you hear great things about? So, just get yourself out there and meet people. That's the biggest thing.
Yes, I agree 100%. I am big on networking, and I try to meet a couple of new people each week. just, for the sake of growing my network. And, when you are a nonprofit, relationship matters. So it's good to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Kellie, so thank you so much for being on the show today. Oh, my goodness. I wish we had more time.
Yeah, I said on break, we're
gonna
just getting started.
I'm going to have to have you back on the show to talk more about this, because this is really what we are trying to do. And I love your story again, your mentorship story again. So we will have to stay in touch so that we can continue this conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now you have the show. This is our show for today. Now, this is the part that I tell you. It's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day.